Don in London, hello. It's October the 23rd. Excuse me. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance was alcohol, and my behaviour could be equally addictive around being in the right place with the right people, doing the right things, having the right things, always wanting to fit in, trying to be perfect, be right for other people. And if I was right for other people, maybe I would be right for me too. So what happens when that happens, that we're trying to be right for others? Well, we never really get to know who we are, because we're always trying to fit in a very difficult way, bending ourselves to suit other people, rather than finding out who we are and then finding out how we fit in, finding out what we could do today, finding that we have free choices to make each and every day that we're alive and in the game of life. So what's the difference these days? Well, after 35 years of drinking, I had a hard struggle giving it up and saying to myself, I need only give up alcohol one day at a time and then see how life can turn out, and how can I get help to stop drinking and stay stopped, just working on a daily basis. Well, the answer is a daily reprieve from alcohol, if I know how to keep myself well and in recovery, rather than going back into the addiction of alcohol fixing me and my feelings and my outlook, either fixing at the extremes of happiness or sadness, elation or depression, or somewhere in between the two, maybe, with a drink inside me. But it didn't seem to work that way, because once I started again, and this is a few years back, once the whole merry-go-round started again, there was always a desire to look for that drink, look for that fix, and hope that it would turn out differently. But the trouble for me, once alcohol had me in its grip, the outcome was always the same: utterly unhappy, depressed, and seeking oblivion from life rather than trying to live a life, because the old ways just didn't work anymore, and it took me a long time to get there. So a difficult person, me, trying to learn a new way of life, and it did take a long time to put down the drink. It was my best friend for many a year. It helped me cope with life, the life I had, the life I may not have chosen. And of course life is difficult whatever we're doing, so fixing my feelings always seemed like a good idea, fixing the way I felt. So these days I don't have to fix anything really, other than a cup of coffee, make food, live life as it is, life on life's terms, live reality, the possibilities of what can happen today and what can't happen today. And the one thing that maybe cannot happen, and this is my sincere hope, I hope I never have to pick up a drink again to feel like I need it to cope with what is going on. Indeed, I feel these days that a drink would just impede my ability to live. Living reality is far preferable than having to rely on a substance or rely on old behaviour, trying to fit in with other people, trying to be perfect for them, indeed a very trying person. So what made the difference for me? Well, it wasn't of my volition. I woke up one day, I don't know after how many attempts to stop in the final days, realising with a moment of clarity, no matter what I did, I couldn't do it on my own. I really couldn't do it on my own, and I needed help. So I rang a professional, a psychiatrist, and said, I can't stop. And they said, well, come see me, let's work out how to get you dry, let's dry from alcohol, and let's see what can happen next. So that's what happened. And the suggestion was, if you want to stay stopped, maybe go to a place or go with people who have an idea of how to keep sober one day at a time. And that's what happened. And the people who seem to keep sober most often one day at a time were in a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's where I go. either on a daily basis or as many times as I feel I need, for various reasons. Number one reason for going to AA for me is to keep sober. And then what did I find? Well, people like-minded, many people not like-minded. So I found friends in fellowship. I didn't find enemies in fellowship. I just found people who maybe didn't have the same outlook. And then I realised everybody else has their own outlook based on their life journey as it is right now. So we have one similarity and great diversity. And it's the diversity which enabled me to hear many stories of experience, strength and hope, and how life is working when I go to meetings. And then I can relate to them. And then I realise we have this common bond. Sober today, help each other, and don't drink. And it's more than that, it's a way of life after a while, not drinking. Because it certainly was a way of life for me when I was drinking. I couldn't put it down, I felt I deserved it, I expected it at the end of the day after a hard day's work, and I expected it when I was enjoying myself in relationships, whatever sort they were. It was all part of the social fabric of my life, and now it's not. Just like that. Well, no. It takes time. And I was reflecting this morning, I think Hillary Clinton wrote a book, It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. Well, I'm not sure anyway. But there is a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And for me, it takes a fellowship to keep me sober. I can't rely on one other voice in AA, and I can't be relied upon as one voice in AA to carry a message of experience, strength and hope. So this is just my journey as it is. What I've learned along the way, it's every voice in fellowship, sober or not sober, which helps me understand what I can and cannot do today. Can do, be sober, can't do, drink, and then work the rest out as I go. So how does fellowship help me? Well, this is what the purpose of these videos are. I don't speak for anyone else in AA, thank goodness. I couldn't. I can't speak for another person's lifetime, nor their outlook today. It's their personal outlook, and thank goodness they have it, a personal, unique, authentic outlook. So I share about AA, how fellowship helps me, but I don't speak for the fellowship simply because everybody's the same. A desire to stop drinking and let life happen, and then be a part of life, be included, learn how to love people again, learn how to be loved back, maybe for the first time, and do something useful, as we are, wherever we happen to be, in whatever part of family, community, or whatever it is we have available to us. It's just as it is. So I share here the AA preamble, which you will hear at every meeting of AA, on this card, and then the daily reflections from the AA Daily Reflections book, which looks like this. Freely available all over the internet, as is most of the literature of AA. The whole point of AA is free at the point of entry. And the official AA website, as far as I know, still has the big book online and the 12 steps and 12 traditions, which are really the toolkits of how fellowship works and how people keep sober. So in the daily reflections it covers the 12 steps and 12 traditions. The 12 steps to help me be open, honest and willing to live life as it is, rather than try and get drunk, fix it and then fix myself in the process. So I don't do that. It's about living life as it is, living reality. 12 steps, open, honest and willing to keep on learning life. So bang goes the ego, I learn life today. Humility to keep on learning what works. Because if I assume I know, I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes. But anyway, mistakes are learning opportunities. I keep learning. It's okay not to know today. And the 12 traditions help us in unity, service and recovery. No one bigger or smaller, all the same in the same day, whether we're 1 minute sober, still drunk, or 48 years sober, as one of my friends is. An acquaintance, but certainly a friend in fellowship. So that's how it works. It sounds simple, but it's complicated because we have a lot of complications when trying to keep sober, namely the way we think and expect life to be. So if I can reduce my expectations to 0 on a daily basis and not expect or deserve anything, then I have a lot of gratitude for what might happen next. Usually simply my needs are met and my wants are forgotten, quite often. So anyway, the AA preamble, followed by daily reflection, followed by a few words which I have written over the years based on my experience. So it's always learning for me, and every day I learn something new. So I have a big thing at the moment about it takes a village to raise a child and a fellowship to keep me sober. I know one voice, one person doesn't keep another person sober. It takes the many voices of experience, strength and hope. In recovery, what you see is what you get. What you see and hear gives you opportunity to find out what might work for you. And only you can decide what is right for you. So the AA preamble sort of spells it out with a couple of additions from me, just to make it even more clear. Although it's enshrined in how the fellowship works, a lot of us can forget very easily and think we know better than other people. And what I've learned is I don't know better than anyone else how to keep yourself sober. We learn as we go. So here is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So that's it. Only requirement, a desire to stop drinking. There are no rules, laws, regulations in fellowship. No one can tell you what to do. And if they do, and you don't like it, you might want to say to yourself, I need to remove myself from these instructions. I'm going to bugger off. Rather than be angry with them and say, no, bugger off and mind your own business, which is often what I used to do. And sometimes I still do it because I react with anger rather than respond with respect. So no rules, laws or regulations to hold you down, but there are suggestions, 12 steps, toolkit, 12 traditions, part of the overall toolkit. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. So if you haven't got very much money and you need it for food, buy your food. But we are self-supporting through our own contributions. So fellowship is from a wide, varied background, and we contribute as we can to just cover our needs. Rent for rooms and meetings, tea, coffee, biscuits and literature, and a bit of admin on top. So no big infrastructure and no leaders telling you what to do. Leadership is something we do for ourselves in our own lives. And in fellowship we try work in unity, service and recovery. And everything is at group level. So above the group level there is no instruction. Groups run their groups how they wish to. But as long as they fall in with the traditions, I guess, in a very loose, tight way. Loose, tight, simply meaning a desire to stop drinking, run meetings with that in mind, and all will be fairly well, and meetings will flourish, unless they get contentious, old thinking creeps in, and things go awry, which they can, because we're human. So a whole community of one group can go a bit off, because they get stuck in their ways, and then newcomers don't understand what on earth is going on. Avoid those if you're new, and you'll find them very quickly, because they do exist. So AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, but everybody in AA does all those things in their normal life, or starts to belong to outside life all over again. So we come into fellowship with stories about how life is today, sharing our beliefs, our faith, our affiliations, our causes and everything else. But we don't share them to impose them on you. Definitely not. And certainly not to impose them on me, because I will tell you to bugger off in the nicest possible way. Or just say, your outlook is great for you, and my outlook is great for me, and we're both sober, so that's what we're here for in fellowship, sober. The rest of life can happen. And our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And it's not about rounding people up and holding them down as prisoners or hostages. It's about sharing experience, strength and hope, so another person can hear their life story, what is going on, their life story, from another. And if you hear your life story, you're likely to stick around and find out how did that person, with their experience, strength and hope, get sober. And you can ask them. That's how it works. It's not rocket science. We say keep it simple, but as good people on this planet for enough time to learn how to drink, we have made it very complicated, and our thinking will drive us bonkers. But if we know what our feelings are in this emotional and spiritual program of well-being, emotional, knowing what your feelings are, spiritual, coping with reality, is the best definition I've heard, but that's just one definition. Please come hear more from many people. I said that incorrectly. My experience is I hear what other people say, and I'm still able to make my mind up what is going to work for me. I don't speak for anybody else. Thank God I don't. And I mean that as somebody who has been an atheist, an agnostic and a believer, depending on what reality is telling me. And even if art and science are telling me something, I still have to work it out in my own head. What I understand works for me. Same as you do. At least sober, hopefully, you've got some freedom to choose how it's going to work for you. So as the mind clears, we make progress. But we're never perfect, and we never strive for perfection. What we're looking for is a daily reprieve from drinking, so life can work. And it's imperfect, so it's going to be hard work. And as M. Scott Peck said, life is difficult. But if we accept that life is difficult, maybe we can just accept that life is difficult. And it is going to be difficult for as long as we're here. And that's a good thing, because what would we do if it was all easy and we laid back and wondered what to do next? Boredom, some suggest, well, I suggest actually, boredom is an agitated, clever, emotional and intelligent mind with nothing to do, or rather time on their hands. What I found in recovery is there isn't enough time in any one day to do all the things we want to do, or rather we need to do, whichever way it turns out. Anyway, today's daily reflection is as follows. What we know best. Shoemaker, stick to thine last. Better do one thing supremely well than many badly. That is the central theme of this tradition, number 5, which reads, number 5, that can't be right. Tradition 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. So in other words, AA, the fellowship, has no opinion on anything other than trying to help people get sober. Because outside issues will clobber us and make us it will divide people. So if we add any other outside issues on top, we're in trouble. Around it, our society gathers in unity. The very life of our fellowship requires the preservation of this principle. The survival of AA depends upon unity. What would happen if a group decided to become an employment agency, a treatment centre, or a social service agency? Too much specialisation leads to no specialisation, to frittering of efforts, and finally to decline. I have the qualifications to share my sufferings and my way of recovery with the newcomer, in other words, share a life story. Conformity to AA's primary purpose ensures the safety of the wonderful gift of sobriety, so my responsibility is enormous. The life of millions of alcoholics is closely tied to my competence in carrying the message to the still suffering alcoholic. And that's a very big thing, conformity. Conformity that we don't include outside issues when we're trying to help people get sober, so we don't impose our views on them. And that's why I try not to do it here. But I will talk about my views from time to time, or what gets my goat, or what gets me upset. So it's part of my life story, that I'm not trying to tell you to run your life my way. In fact, I don't run my life my way at all, really. I just choose what is best today, what needs met, once forgotten. Wanting, expectations, deserving something. I don't know that we deserve anything. Apart from Article 1 of the Human Rights, which says we're all equal, and we ought to all try and strive to do the best we can with what we have, and ensure that we don't tread on the toes of our fellows, or words to that effect. Mind you, quite a lot of people in the world wouldn't go along with that, would they? Yes. Anyway, we won't go into that. I'll be here all day. So, my thoughts this morning, which is has that in mind. Tradition 10. No outside issues when it comes to sobriety. I'm not imposing my ideas on other people. Just sharing what's working for me, and sharing something of the fellowship, and sharing something of the AA preamble, which is so often forgotten. We hear it at meetings, but we don't hear it. We're waiting for someone to speak to us, or we're waiting for something, or we're anxious to speak ourselves. So the AA preamble is glossed over in a forgetting way. It's not intended to be forgotten, but unless we really, really understand, why do we need to be reminded on a daily basis about what is AA? Because we forget every day what's working for us. That's the nature of humankind, it seems. We forget what is good for us, but we know what is bad for us, and we can drift into it very easily. So, for October 23, my thoughts this morning. I needed help to learn how to be sober. And now I know how to be sober for a day. We have our daily reprieve because of the help of everyone in fellowship. I'm not a guru. I share what I learn. I could not stop drinking on my own. And on my own, I cannot keep another sober. This is critical. So even though I might learn how to keep sober myself for today, with the input and help of support of other people if it goes wrong, I need to remind myself I can't keep another person sober on my own. It's the totality. It takes a village to raise a child and a fellowship to keep me sober. And that's the way I feel about it. Or rather, let's put it this way. If we desire sobriety and we try and do it on our own, self-will is working, not having to use self-will, just simply live life and see what the options are daily. We can still make plans for the future, but we're not driven mad by an obsessional requirement to meet that goal. Yes, some people want to be the best at what they do, but that doesn't mean you have to be first, unless, of course, you're racing and competing, which will drive you bonkers as well, I have noticed, and very short careers in perfection. Those who take life in their stride, one day at a time, seem maybe, or certainly in my case, living longer than they ever would have done before. A fellowship to keep me sober. A good close friend reminded me recently what to say to newcomers who felt AA was not going to work for them. And this is something that was never said to me. I never heard it anyway, or maybe it was said 1,000 times and I didn't hear it because it wasn't what I wanted to hear. She said, keep coming to meetings because sooner rather than later you will hear your own life story told by another. And it was a good reminder for me, and now I've heard my life story countless times over the years. A daily reminder, a daily reprieve, always good for me today. It is a daily reprieve. It's just for today. Thank God. Whoever that might be. It's certainly not me. That's one of the things I've learned. I'm not God. I'm not better at sobriety than one other human being. I can't teach another person to be sober. I'd have to be there 24/7. So it's always the many in fellowship, and different groups, different meetings, different connections, different writing, different whatever it is, communicating about sober and sharing hope, experience and strength, or in that order reversed. Just a couple of things. from previous years. I'm not going to go through the whole lot. No, I'm not. It'll be on my blog. A link from YouTube, or wherever I've put it. I don't know where I've put it now. But certainly it will be on YouTube. Last year, fellowship. All walks of life, all ages, and always an open door to share experience, strength and hope about sobriety. What you see is what you get. Attraction based on truth, love and wisdom. Sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly we learn. Sometimes ridiculous, sublime, tragic or wonderful, we share sobriety as life is today. It's like saying it's wonderfully horrible, or it's horribly wonderful. They're opposites, but that's what life is. Wonderful in a split second, and then horrible the next. And it's how we cope with that absolutely diverse change in any one moment. And it takes a bit of patience so that we don't keep on reacting in anger, become frustrated, get depressed and start drinking, which is the fastest way we do it. And you know, everybody has grief in their life around something, and the worst is for an addict or an alcoholic coming into recovery is the grief caused by giving up one's best friend, the fix that was always there. Even when it stopped working at the end, we couldn't stop using it. What you see is what you get in recovery. Reality, coping with life on life's terms, that it's difficult. It can be horribly wonderful or wonderfully joyful, or just plain horrible, difficult, and full of desolation from time to time, because that's life. And if we didn't have those bits, how would we understand the other side of it, the joy, the happiness, the love, all that? So that's life. It is. Sober better for me. Much improved on a daily basis than it ever used to be, because I didn't know where I was headed, I didn't know what life was all about, didn't have a family, didn't get married, although I wished I had always found the right girl, but she was stuck with me. Nowadays, a bit too old for that, and life's okay, as it may be, lots of friends, loving life, loving people, useful in my own way. That's good. I reckon anybody with on their epitaph, if they've had a good day before they pegged it, and they've learned how to love, be loved and useful in whatever capacity. I think the Desiderata poem by Max Ehrmann, written around the same time as the Fellowship was founded, back in the 20s, when there was a stock market crash and depression hit the world. A bit like now, if we're not careful. Well, we're in depression economically, but in my own head right now, not depressed that much. In fact, maybe not at all right this moment, but it could come back. So the thing which keeps me sharp and on edge, not on edge, alert, is the can do, can't do understanding, and wisdom to know the difference of what I can do and can't do. I can do, change me, my attitudes, behaviour and outlook. I can't change you, your attitudes, behaviour and outlook. I might influence them by what I share. I might not like or even understand what you do. And I don't have to judge you today. I need only be responsible for what I can do. And there's a pledge in AA. I am responsible when anyone, anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that I'm responsible. And it says the hand of AA, the fellowship, the many voices, not just my hand. On its own it's useless. Well, not completely, but it's not enough. One person is never enough, it seems to me, and this is just my opinion, to keep another person sober. We are more likely to be dragged into the mire of resentfulness and anger. Why don't those AA fellows help me get this person sober? That is the worst, because we think we're behaving like we know better. And all I know is sober is today. That's all I know, and how to do it. But I don't know how to be better at it than anybody else, because it's the life story you hear which is similar to your own which starts it all going. and then it's everyone who has a hand in keeping us all sober. A village to raise a child, a fellowship to keep me sober. So important. But if I think it's me, I am responsible wholly for your sobriety, I am not able to do it. So the can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference, that serenity prayer, as it's called, how to be serene for today, accept what I can do, or rather, it works like this. I'll say it and then you'll understand, I hope. So it's to God or in good conscience, depending on your belief system, and your belief system is how it will work, not my belief system. So what you believe in, whether it's God, good conscience, or whatever. So to God or in good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Always for me, in the moment, and just for today.